Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen. How are we? If I could get you to take your seats, that would be wonderful. It's great to be here. My name's Andy Saunders. I'm a Aboriginal comedian. My wife doesn't think so usually. Sometimes she'll say, "Oh, no one thinks you're funny," and I say, "Well, the brand of your shoes and the location of our house suggest otherwise." But she doesn't like that joke. But it's amazing to be here. I'd like to introduce my co-MC, Summer Finlay. I've got some notes here. She is a senior lecturer at the University of Wollongong, and she's a Yorta woman. She brought a little Emily, a new born baby, so she brought a Yorta daughter here. I like rhyming. That was. She is the deputy chair at Thidderley, which is an Australia's only Aboriginal community-controlled post-vention suicide organisation. Am I right with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Spot on. Love it. Thank you. And of course, I have the pleasure of introducing Andy Saunders, my co-MC. He's a Biripi man, obviously a comedian, and he will absolutely be enjoyable very much today. You might know him from many TV appearances, including his stint on The Block with his wife.
Yeah, that was fun. When I was younger, though, I probably had more on CCTV. Most of my selfies were like this. But look, it's a pleasure to be here with you, Summer, and we've had a couple of yarns, and I met your daughter, and I met your mum. Your mum's a lovely lady. She's just going around the...
She's up the back now.
Oh, she's up the back.
It's too cold outside.
G'day, Mum, looking after little Emily. Look, we have to say before we get started, there are professional photographers here today, so we'd like to make everyone aware of that. And the event is being filmed as well, so if you're uncomfortable, please let us know. Like if you have any warrants or anything like that, and you don't want your photo to be showing up on Facebook or something like that. Hey, we've been looking for him. We'll be able to give you a wristband, and they won't take any photos or any footage. So we'll be able to provide you with those. But our photographers won't bite you if you want your photo taken with a cuzzy or an auntie or an uncle or a brother, sister, whatever. Get them to take your photo because it's going to be in high definition. So take advantage of it, I was poor when I was young. Summer, the only photos we could take was at red light cameras. We had to order those.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much. And before we go any further, of course, we would like to invite Auntie Margaret up to do the welcome. So Auntie Margaret, while she's coming up, she's going to do the welcome, and just let everybody know that the dancers and smoking will be outside. So when Auntie Margaret's finished, we'll go outside and then we'll come back in. So thank you very much. Aunt, do you want a handheld or do you want to...
I'll stay down here.
If you want to?
Yep. Okay. Bit dangerous. Yeah. Yiridu Marang, Yuandu Auntie Margaret, Dabadi Willow Radri Yina. Morning everyone, my name's Auntie Margaret Walker. I'm a Radri elder from this community. It's a pleasure to be here to offer you welcome to country today. And my mob is the Nolan Carr family here from Dubbo. Just to let you know that, yeah. But the country we're meeting on today is Willow Radri country. Willow's the possum, that's our totem for this area, and we're part of the Radri Nation. And I'd just like to let you know, this is Dundalamo country out here. This is my tribal land that we're meeting on here today as well. So, warm Radri welcome to everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging and pay my respects to elders past, present and future, for they hold our culture, our history and our memories, and also acknowledge the descendants of the 8 clan groups within Dubbo. And acknowledge all our elders here today and all First Nations people here today as well. And my respects to all our elders here that are here today. A warm Wiradjuri welcome, and I'll give you our welcome in language first, then in English. Yinagalambo, Gibrabangbo, Guwain Banadu Nindugi, Wiradjuri Gu, Numbango, Wiradjuri Maini Garang, Nindugi Nini Yahi. Welcome everyone to Wiradjuri country, and Wiradjuri people are glad that you're here. On behalf of all Aboriginal people, our culture, our history and our land, welcome to Willow Wiradjuri country. Mandangu. which is thank you. So, mandangu.
Thank you, Auntie Margaret, for that beautiful welcome. I think we want to just say thank you for that. It's beautiful to hear our language coming back and the revitalisation of all of our languages everywhere. It's a lovely thing to be a part of, and you know, they've been gone for so long, and it's just lovely to hear an elder doing that. And we'd like to acknowledge our elders, past and present, and thank you for that welcome, for welcoming us, a Yorta Yorta woman and Biripi man, here on this beautiful country here. And we'd like to pay respects to our elders, past and present and emerging, and thank all of our elders and ancestors for doing what they did on the land they did it on, so we can do what we do on the land we do it on. So it's great to connect here today, especially with a start like that. So thank you very much. We do have housekeeping though, don't we? There is obviously we have our toilets here. Don't forget the toilets there, and our exits over here. And in the event of emergency, don't
Follow instructions.
Follow instruction, but I say panic. Just get out as fast as you can. For the white people in the room, don't try and keep up with me. I am very fast, hey? So if you get out, you'll know I'll be out waiting for you, just having a coffee, just thinking, I hope they make it out all right.
So we invite you to come outside. We have the Dinawanners who are performing a smoking and a dance, and they've been out there preparing for us. So thank you very much, and we'll see you back in here not too long.
If you could just find your seats, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get started. You got people out there getting a cup of coffee? A muffin? What have you?
My mum reckons those pastries are the best, so get into them.
They were good. You got Rhonda's endorsement, Summer's mum, who says the pastries are amazing. Anyone had any pastries? Hands up. Yep, up the back, yes. What were they like? Very good. Delicious. Oh, how were those dances? Dinner one dances, dinner one group. So great. And that guy, his voice was beautiful. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, if they could all sing, they'd be like the Aboriginal One Direction. I'd manage them and so they can dance. They're brave to have a lap on today, though. Hey, yep. None of them had goosebumps. No. Unbelievable. If I had a lap on out there, and I'm prudish, you know, I don't get undressed in front of too many people, but a lap, my shaker leg would have been like a blur because it's so cold. I'm scared to show my legs in public, like from a distance in a pair.
Your legs are all right.
They're skinny. Yeah. Summer.
Got skinny blackfella legs.
Yeah, that's right. We haven't done leg day for 80,000 years. But my legs are so skinny. From a distance in a pair of shorts, I look like a bar stool. It's not very sexy at all. It's you know you got skinny legs when you're jealous of ibises. Anyway, I think that was amazing, and it's just a refreshing thing to see our culture being on display like that. I mean, our young people are seeing that more and more, and they're getting involved and engaged in that. You know, my kids are, you know, they're involved in learning gut tongue language, and it was good to see the boys do a Biripi dance and utilise the gut tongue language, which stretches across Biripi and Warramai, which is the top of Port Macquarie, if you don't know it, all the way down to Port Stephens. So it stretches across 2 different countries. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. I'm proud to see things like that. I love it. And I love Aunt for doing that welcome and just bringing it all into connection like that, and connection to country and culture, which is what this campaign's all about. We'd like to recognise that the topics we will touch on today can be hard. But if anything comes up during the event, we have people here with us today that you can have a yarn with. So if we could get those special people put their hands up. Vanessa Edwig, are you here, Vanessa? Yep. We've also got Kaylee Bayliss and Gomeroi man Ronald Prince. Put your hands up. You can have a talk with these legends, and they're from the healing team. They've got shirts on, so just have a look out for them. But they're amazing humans, and they can debrief with you and have a bit of a yarn with you about anything that comes up today that may be a trigger or something that reminds you or you're associated with past experiences and family, culture, community. So please feel free to have a talk with them. There's something else. If we could get you on that. But, the healing team is here for you to have a yarn with if you need to.
And absolutely make use of them. They are fantastic, very worthwhile, and I think it is important. And the whole point of this campaign is connect, reach out and talk. And if you are struggling today with any of it, start doing that today because it's absolutely important. So unfortunately, the Honourable Mr. Bronnie Taylor, who is the Minister for Mental Health in New South Wales, couldn't be with us today. However, she is very well organised and she has sent us a video, and we're really grateful that she has a message for us today. So when we're ready, thank you.
Hi, my name's Bronnie Taylor and I'm your Minister for Women, Minister for Regional Health and Minister for Mental Health. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners on the land of which we are today, of past, present and emerging. Also, representatives from Aboriginal community controlled organisations, non-government organisations and peak bodies, Aboriginal health professionals, community members from Dubbo and surrounds, and the team from Cox in Old Ridgeway. I'd like to say that I'm really sorry that I could not join you all in person for the launch of the New South Wales Health Aboriginal Suicide Prevention Campaign. It's a really important initiative in addressing suicide rates in our Aboriginal communities. So thank you all for coming together, and it is by meeting and sharing our collective expertise and skills that we can better address the complex issue of suicide in our communities. I know a lot of really fantastic work is being done by our Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations and various communities on the ground. The campaign being launched today hopes to amplify that good work and reduce the heartbreak that communities all over New South Wales face when someone takes their own life. In New South Wales, the suicide rate for Aboriginal people is consistently lower than in other states and territories who report this data. Now that's a good thing, but despite this, the need to specifically target New South Wales Aboriginal communities in our suicide prevention efforts is really clear, because suicide is the 5th leading cause of death for Aboriginal people, with the suicide rate for Aboriginal people over twice that of the general population. So tragically, the rate of suicide for young Aboriginal people is over 3 times higher than for non-Aboriginal youth. I'm not telling you anything that you all don't know, because you're the experts on the ground in your communities. But the unprecedented challenges of the past few years with disastrous weather events and a global pandemic thrown in, it just hasn't helped. Now, we know that every single life lost is one too many. So in recognition of this, the New South Wales Government is investing a record $2.9 billion into mental health services and supports for people across the state as part of this year's budget. And a significant portion of this investment is going towards our long-term efforts to reduce suicide rates. And look, as many of you here today would know, our aim is to reduce the rate of suicide deaths in New South Wales by 20% by 2023. It is a Premier's priority. And it's one which seeks to reduce the devastating impact that every single suicide has on families, on friends, and our entire communities. So 15 initiatives have been rolled out across the state under the Towards Zero Suicides umbrella of work since 2019. And we've invested over $140 million in this, and that's happening over the next 4 years, but we want to continue this great work. And the Aboriginal Suicide Prevention Campaign, which is being delivered as part of this community response package for Aboriginal people, is among several initiatives. It's designed specifically to reach, but most of all, importantly, be relevant to Aboriginal communities. And along with this, the Towards Zero Suicide Building on Aboriginal Communities Resilience Initiative provides funding to local community organisations so that they can deliver culturally appropriate services, social and emotional wellbeing programs included dedicated cultural interventions for young Aboriginal people across New South Wales. And look, we know that while mental illness is no longer as stigmatised as it used to be, I know, and you absolutely know, that Aboriginal people have one of the lowest rates of help seeking. So stigma is still an issue. But through this campaign and your ongoing work, I hope we can better foster an environment in our Aboriginal communities where someone who may be feeling distressed feels comfortable asking for help, putting their hand up and saying, I need help. Because the issue of suicide in our communities will only be solved if we continue talking about it and we continue to talk about it honestly and openly. So ladies and gentlemen, it's my absolute pleasure to launch the Aboriginal Suicide Prevention Campaign. Connect, reach out and heal our way. I wish the campaign every success. I thank you so much for everything that you do each and every day. And I hope it supports you all in doing the important work that you do for our Aboriginal communities. So thank you to each and every one of you for absolutely everything that you do in your local communities. It truly makes a difference.
Oh, thank you very much, Minister. Is it Minister Bronnie Taylor? Oh, that was great. And the dubbing was amazing. That video. You know I'm going to make fun of things like that. I can't help it. I mean, and this is about change for our future and having a real committed government that is committed to changing things for the better for our people in the future and our young people and their kids and their kids' kids. This is all about the future and knowing that things are going to change for the better. You know, my kids are always like, you know, and things have changed since my kids were young. You know, like my kids are into Fortnite. I don't know if you know the game Fortnite. My young boy, 12-year-old, he plays Fortnite and things have changed since I was his age. Fortnite when I was his age was how long we had to wait for mum's pension to come in. It's just, now it's a babysitter. Anyway, you know, it's no mystery we've had a terrible few years, you know, with the pandemic. But this is a real pandemic as well. When you're thinking about pandemics, it doesn't mean that it's not affecting, you know, each and every part of our communities and individuals and families and so on and so forth. So this for us is a pandemic and we need to address it as, you know, as soon as we possibly can. And the Minister said something about 20% by next year. I mean, when you set a goal, we want to set it to the absolute maximum. We want zero. It'll be, and that's what we talked about this morning to media. Was that media? Yeah. It was, yeah. Okay. So we're here today to celebrate the launch of Heal Our Way, the New South Wales Aboriginal Suicide Prevention Campaign. The tagline of this campaign is Connect, Reach Out, Heal Our Way, like the Minister said. Background information is as part of the Premier's priority towards zero suicides, the New South Wales Ministry of Health have engaged Cox Inall Ridgeway to deliver the TZS statewide community response package for Aboriginal people, which seeks to engage and respond to the needs of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. This campaign recognises that cultural identity, belonging and connectedness are central to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander wellbeing and are protective factors that assist to buffer psychological stresses. Heal Our Way will be delivered across New South Wales through awareness raising and engaging services through the development and implementation of a social media campaign and other promotional campaigns happening within communities. Development and implementation of support tools and resources. On the ground activations including community events like today and strength-based yarning circles, which is important for our people.
Absolutely. And I have to say, we all know that suicide has unfortunately touched every one of our families. And every person who has been touched by it knows how important that this campaign is, particularly because it's driven by and for Aboriginal people. So there's a number of aims for this campaign. Obviously, one of them is to end suicide, and the way they're going about doing that, this campaign's really encouraging people to have safe conversations about suicide, to reach out to mob and ask people, are they thinking about it? Also about increasing community knowledge. We need to make sure that our mob are comfortable with asking those questions and have enough knowledge to with people. I keep dropping in and out. I don't think they want to hear from me. Creating awareness of available suicide prevention services. So we know that our mob are already doing this on the ground. We know that in each of our Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations, there's a number of programs. So it's making sure that everyone's aware of those and able to refer people onto those. Honestly, this campaign has been underpinned by the strong advisory group. There's a range of health experts on there, as you would expect, social and emotional wellbeing workers, community organisations and government representatives. On behalf of the Coccinal Ridgeway team, I would like on their behalf to say thank you to everybody who was on the advisory group and everybody who has shared their knowledge and guidance with Coccinal Ridgeway. We know that you do this for mob. We know that everything you've shared has gone into this campaign to make it as solid as it needs to be to stop people taking their own lives. We'd now like to invite Jasmine Crasson to share the story behind this beautiful artwork. Sorry, I just took over one of Andy's.
Can't believe it.
We're struggling with the mics up here. Jasmine, I'll just give Jasmine my mic. I think it's working now.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. Firstly, I'd also like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people and the land on which we are gathering today, and all Aboriginal people, and my nan and my pop and my beautiful cousin who are able to make it today, who are from Dubbo. I was really lucky to be able to create the artwork for this campaign, and I'd like to thank Kerry, Damien and the entire Coccinal Ridgeway team for trusting me to be able to produce the work. When this job was given to me, we'd actually had 2 of our family members pass away from far western New South Wales, so my family is mostly in Wilcannia. We'd actually just lost 2 of my cousins in the space of 3 months, so this project was something that really touched my heart and felt like something I really wanted to be a part of. And so I spoke with a lot of my little cousins who are in Wilcannia and were directly affected by these suicides, and sort of put together a little bit of a list of things that they told me were things that make for a healthy and happy community. So this is just from my little cousins. So they said things like community, support, role models, family, networks, purpose, direction, joy, inclusion and education. And I wrote a little note that said things needed for healthy communities and people. So I tried to interweave a lot of these things into the work itself. And I brought my list up so that I don't miss anything. I wanted this work to feel very positive and be about, I think, all of the things that we and you all bring to your community, to your family, and to all the people that love you and are around you all the time. Rather than being something that is sad and looking back on life, I want it to be a celebration of everything that we are still bringing and still are to our families. At the top, I wanted the layers of underneath these circles to be like ripples, and these are the ripples that we make in our life, and the I guess the things that we leave behind as we go, and layered on top of that is our network. So all of these connected circles at the top are sort of the networks that we leave along the way. The second row of people is sort of supposed to be reminiscent of those paper cutouts, and that's to sort of be representative of you take one out and you've changed that layer of people forever. So that's really representative of our communities and how much of an impact you make when you are no longer with us, especially looking at my family out west at the moment and the way that those suicides affected them, and the way that still today it's the healing is still happening and ongoing for so many of my family members who we've lost over the years, and the way that their lives are still impacting on us today and mean everything to us. the lines at the bottom are the journeys that we have taken and continue to take, and so it's, I guess, representative of all the different directions that we can go and can continue to go, even though times are tough. The middle row with all of the buildings is representative of all our different communities. So something that we spoke about with Kerry and Damien was how important it was to be representing all the Aboriginal communities that exist, not just regional communities, but also our urban city communities and our rural communities. So this was sort of meant to be representative of that. I wanted the skyscrapers to acknowledge the fact that we do have our communities in the cities as well, and they struggle with these same issues. The row above the vine is, I guess, meant to be representative of some of our artifacts that we would find in the land, and I think a bit of an acknowledgement to the fact that everywhere we go is where we are from, and acknowledgement of the land itself and how important that is to our healing and who we are and our identity as well, and how that contributes to feeling safe and at home is the land itself and where we come from. And the vine is something that I've put in my work quite often. Being originally from Newcastle, this vine used to be representative for me of the Mullumbimba sea fern, but I also like to use it to be representative of growth and change and the way that we can grow through the pain that we are feeling, and that there's always going to be new leaves on the vine. So while things are tough, if we let the vine grow, there will be new, fresh and beautiful leaves to continue. So yeah, that's sort of the basis of the work itself. And then I was also lucky enough to be able to create the animation aspect that goes with this work. So hopefully we'll get to see that one later today. But yeah, again, thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone who gave me this opportunity to be a part of this. And I'm incredibly grateful to have contributed a small part to this project. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. And thanks for sharing with us about your loss. I wish you well and bless you with peace and love on your journey through that grief. It's a hard thing to live through, and we're all thinking of you and all of our brothers and sisters who are going through experiences like that. Where are we? We're right here. With that said, our next thing on the agenda is we'd like to welcome up Harpreet, full name, Harpreet, and Shanae from Cox Inner Ridgeway to share the resources and materials created for Heal Our Way. So give them a warm round of applause on stage because they're going to do that in dance and song.
That's right, improvised dance and song. No. Hello everyone, it's wonderful to be with you all here today. Before launching the resources that have been created as part of this campaign, I wanted to share a little bit about the process that's been undertaken in the developmental phase of this campaign. The essential part, as we know, of any community campaign is that it must be grounded in community voices. So we began this process by speaking with about 70 Aboriginal people to hear what was important to them when it came to suicide prevention. And I'd like to acknowledge Sansia Ridgeway, who's part of our team, for leading on that very important piece of work. This was a cross-section of ages, locations and genders across New South Wales. Through this process, what we heard and what was endorsed by the advisory group was the importance of practical tools to support people to be confident in having these yarns about suicide. In addition to community voices, we've engaged with the Aboriginal community controlled sector through the AHMRC and the 12 Towards Zero Suicide AMSs. We've also engaged with the New South Wales Aboriginal mental health workforce through our advisory group representatives and also through the New South Wales Aboriginal mental health leadership group. We'll continue to work closely with everyone to build on this campaign over the next 2 years. I'll now hand over to Shanae to launch the resources.
Hi everyone, my name's Shanae, so I'm a Darug woman. My mum's from Lapa and Hawkesbury River, but I was born and raised out in Darug country, which is southwest of Sydney in Campbelltown. So this campaign has been a long time in the works, so it's a privilege to be with you here today and very excited to show you all the resources, which we will pull up in a second. So the main piece of our campaign, the hero animation, will go for approximately about 4 minutes. And it has been 6 months in the making for that design. So as Harp had said, we spoke with quite a few community members around the state. With the script for the animation, we also tested that with community to see that we were on the right track and that it resonated with community. So it is also talking about suicide directly and about the importance of asking people if they are suicidal, which is why we also wanted to test it with community. And I just want to say a big thank you to Jasmine for that animation. It was an amazing piece and I'm excited to share it with you in a moment. Sometimes we take for granted our designers and artists because it is not an easy job. So thank you so much, Jasmine. Sans, I'll just get you to play it now, please.
Traditionally, suicide was never known to our people or community. There was no word for it in our language. However, this is not the case now. Many of our mob are losing their lives to suicide every year. People may feel like there is no end to their pain and discomfort, and will often have thoughts of suicide. You may notice something that may invite you to ask that someone is thinking of suicide, like isolating, experiencing loss of job or relationship issues, missing mob, not sleeping well. If you think someone you know may be thinking of suicide, the best thing you can do is connect with them and have a yarn. People worry that asking someone if they're having thoughts of suicide may cause them to act on it. This is a myth. It doesn't hurt to ask. It helps. If you're worried about someone, you should act immediately by taking the following steps. Ask them directly. The only way to know if they are thinking about suicide is to ask. You could ask them, are you having thoughts of suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Have you had thoughts about ending your life? When having this yarn with someone, it's important to make them feel safe and supported and not feel shame for the way they are feeling. When people are thinking about taking their own life, they want someone to reach out, someone to listen and care. Listen and stay. If someone says they are thinking of suicide, it is important not to panic or show your distress. Be calm, listen to them and stay with them. Let them yarn and share their story. Let them know it's okay to share, even if it's hard. Don't tell them what they are thinking is wrong, or they shouldn't be thinking of thoughts like that. It's important to let them know that they aren't alone, that you're here to support them, and they're not being judged. Get help. If someone has had thoughts of suicide, the most important thing to do is keep them safe. Encourage them to get help and to seek support. If you're worried they might take action to end their life, direct them to mob they may trust, skilled in eye assist, safe yarn, or mental health first aid. You can also direct them to a local mental health crisis team, and if it's an emergency, call an ambulance immediately, or take them to the hospital. Another way to support them is to encourage and support them to seek help from an elder, family, local community centre, or medical service. If they don't feel comfortable talking to someone in person, there is always the 13 Yarn Lifeline support line. You don't have to take on all of this responsibility by yourself. It is important for you to have a strong support network and take time for yourself. A good way to look after yourself is to connect with country, community, and culture. Yarn with someone you feel safe with. Immerse yourself in something you enjoy which can uplift your spirit and keep it strong. Remember to connect, reach out, heal our way. Developed with the support of Aboriginal people and communities across the country. funded by New South Wales Ministry of Health.
So that was our animation. So up next, we do have a few series of short videos, which will play consecutively after the other. So these videos speak to people's lived experience of suicide and the supports that are available, and also from the Ministry of Health as well. So our deepest gratitude to everyone who has been willing to share their experience and support in this campaign, and would just like to call out and acknowledge Uncle George Ellis, Uncle Michael Welsh, which is Uncle Whitty, Paul Spiram, Ronald Prince, Dean Bayliss, and Kerry Smith. So if we could just start playing them.
My name's George Ellis, George Lindsay Ellis. Dad's mob from Mungandai and Mum's mob, Tennant Creek. It is an issue. It's been a big issue for as long as I can remember. My brother, he took his life in, would have been early 2000s, and that devastated all of us. It devastated us. When that had happened too, issues came up for myself about my own mortality as well. And from there, it's been a case where I've even questioned my own mortality, where I wondered if it was worthwhile going through with it. I've dug deep many times to pull myself out of dark places. I have a better understanding of what might drive someone to do that, going through different scenarios and feeling as though you're not worth being. Your being's not, that you're not doing things right, or that things aren't happening the way that you are. Things will change. Things can change, but it's up to us to make that change. We have to be ready for the help. We have to look for it. And there is help out there. My biggest problem's been not trusting anyone or being ashamed about it. Being fearful of what people are going to say. You know, I'm this strong black man. I don't need that kind of help. That's a load of crap. We all need that help. I would say to anyone out there, talk to someone. If you can't talk to a brother, a sister, there's always someone out there who you can talk to. There's an uncle. There's someone. Don't hold it. It'll lead you away.
My name's Shanae Holmes. I'm a Darrell and Durrag woman, so my mum comes from Laparoo and Hawkesbury River, but I was born and raised out on Darrell country in Campbelltown, which is where I still live today. I have lived experience of suicide. I started self-harming. That was due to grief and loss. We lost my older brother when I was around 11, so then it was just me and mum. It was sort of a little bit of like prolonged grief, you know, as a child, when you do have such a massive impact like that happen to you, especially an emotional impact, you don't quite know how to deal with it. So for me, I didn't. It was one of those you sort of shove down, move on with your life and just do the everyday that you're used to. So then there were like little triggers for me, I guess, when I started high school, just a big change in life, big shift. You know, going from a small school to a big school where you don't know everyone, your support structure is very different. Felt like I was a little bit lost, so that's sort of where the self-harming started. Yeah, no, I think it's really important to ask someone if they are suicidal or wanting to end their life. I mean, you can never know unless you ask, and there's no harm in asking. You know, we talk about myths around suicide and the fact that, you know, people say that if you ask someone if they're suicidal, they're going to put the thought in their head, when it's really not the case. If you're worried about someone to the point where you're asking them if they're suicidal, the thought's already in their head. And by asking them, you know, if they're wanting to end their life, it might actually save a life because you're addressing it. But it's also really important, their response and what you do and say after their response. You don't need to know what to say, you don't need to know everything around how to help them. The most important thing you can do in the moment is just be there with them, listen, don't freak out, just be there to support them, and even mention that to them, that you're there with them, that you're hearing them, and that you're there to support them. Not a lot of people asked me if I was suicidal. It was usually the health professional, the school counsellor, my mum, because this is an area that she works in. But none of my friends did, none of my peers did. And I think that's just purely because they didn't know what to say, they didn't have the education. So how could they ask? And I think it's really important for people who have, you know, suicidal experience and lived experience, that every experience is different for each person. And, you know, you may have similar situations of grief, trauma, family breakdown, but it's not the same for every person. Even if you think it ticks each box, it's not. So don't ever say, I understand, but say, I'm here for you and I'm listening. So remember to connect, reach out, and heal our way.
Yami Yindai, Mob Ronald Prince here, proud Gomeroi man from Mugandai, northwest New South Wales. Just here to have a yarn around suicide awareness. So suicide awareness, prevention programs are, you know, very important in our community, particularly with our men, our younger men as well. There's a lot of rates in our communities as well, both you know, in the rural setting and in the metro areas as well. Myself personally, I've been affected by suicide. Close family members, close friends, you know, even a bloke that was like a brother to me as well. So, you know, it's everybody within the Aboriginal community would you know, and this is how bad it is in community, would know somebody that had, you know, either, you know, that had been closely affected by, you know, suicide. So it's a big yarn, and we need to get it out there. And then when it, you know, when it does finally affect us, you know, a lot of mob don't really talk about it, and they really need to understand that there's people out there that can help. There's services out there that can help, and you know, we need to look at that healing process as well. You know, post, you know, the funerals and everything else. We need to destigmatise that, you know, suicide word, and look at more around how we can make it, you know, a softer approach when we are talking around suicide, and how we're going to talk about it as well. So it's really important, and it affects a lot of our mob as a family and as a community to get through, and you know, get on the other side of you know, the effects of what happens within family when it comes to suicide. Hey mob, remember to connect, reach out, and heal our way.
the number one thing that I had to learn for myself was to love myself. Now, not into the sense that I get loved myself over much. I was just at that moment, I just felt that nobody loved me, nobody cares about me. And I was feeling, I hate using this word of self-pity. So that in itself, when I talk about self-pity, is a bad word to use, and it's a bad sentence to even think about, because everybody is allowed to feel a little bit of that, their self-pity for themselves. It's like when somebody says, "I'll get over it," because if I didn't hear what I'd done, it was still blackened out in my mind. Now, being blacked out in there is one thing, and the only way now that I'm able to talk this way is, the fact is that I've learned to get it from there out to here. And I say this to lots of people, I was punching that grief and pain that was given to me by the way those people treated me when I was an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old and all of those type of things what they've done. I know that all children, as they're coming up through their world, they will have a crack at what the bad part is and the good part is. But if we keep the goodness going over here, eventually they will come to that goodness for protection or help or whatever reason. So that's what it is, yeah. Mm.
Well, my name is Paul Spearham. I'm from Moree. Grew up in Brisbane. Proud Gamilaroi Murawari man. Yeah, it's because unfortunately the prevalence that suicide has within our communities. You know, it's I've been affected a few times. Close friends and family members around the same age, just a couple of years younger, just lost a family member a few years back from self-harm. So, it's still raw within our family. The pain, it's still there. It's still real, and it's to say that that we have been. That the effects of suicide in our community is small, it would be a stretch, because it's right in our faces for some of us, and that pain never goes away, especially considering, the age of all these kids, of all the mob that are doing it, especially from where I've felt it as well, they've had so many years in front of them, and if only we could help them, if only we could have reached out to them, and just just don't bottle it up, don't keep it in, and just to be just to have that reassurance that someone always cares, and someone's always there to to listen, and if I can, just pass that message on to the mob, is to don't bottle stuff up, seek out mob within our community, within our families, that we feel comfortable with, just don't bottle it up, it's just, we're losing too much of our youth, of our future, and just speak up, my mob, just speak up, don't hold it in. Reach out, connect, and heal our way.
Yami Yindai, my Ronald Prince here, proud Gomeroi man from Mugandai, northwest New South Wales. Just here to have a yarn around suicide awareness. You know, there's services that you can call like 13 Yarn, ring those guys up, ring the mob up, and they're Aboriginal people, you know, that are there, that have sort of had lived experience around suicide. So there's help out there. There's always someone out there you can talk to, you know, just so that you know that you're not alone. The 5-finger support, you know, so with each person, you could literally count 5 people that you can really count on, and these are, you know, your close family, mum, dad, nan and pop, close friends, family, and any support people, mentors, reach out and get help. Hey mob, remember to connect, reach out and heal our way.
My name is Kerry Smith. I'm a Wiradjuri woman from Condobolin in Central West New South Wales. I'm a Senior Project Officer in the Aboriginal Mental Health Workforce Program at the Ministry of Health. Mainstream services for Aboriginal people, they need to be culturally led and inclusive, and they need to support them, you know, to make sure that Aboriginal culture is implemented in all of the programs that we do. The other challenge that we have at the ministry is we need them to know that when Aboriginal issues are being discussed, there needs to be an Aboriginal person at the table. At the ministry, we fund the Building on Aboriginal Communities Resilience Initiative, and it's one of 15 initiatives under Towards Zero Suicides, which is the Premier's priority. I had the opportunity to lead this program. It's a really unique program. It's led by an Aboriginal person. We fund 12 Aboriginal community-controlled health organisations across the state, and they're able to design and work together with their communities to look at activities based on the needs of their community around suicide prevention. And just an example of a couple of those programs is in Kumiella AMS in Dareton. A few years ago, they had a high incidence of death by suicide of Aboriginal people. We provided them with some funding. They developed work with their community, and they developed some activities that they knew that the community needed. Since the funding, and from what we know, there hasn't been any suicides in the community. At the ministry, we recognise the need to support Aboriginal mental health staff. Our Aboriginal staff usually go above and beyond what they need to do and what is expected of them in their roles, and it can lead to burnout. So we're in the initial stages of developing an Aboriginal mental health, social and emotional wellbeing community of practice. That'll be there to support the Aboriginal mental health, social emotional wellbeing and alcohol and other drugs workforce. It'll be a culturally safe platform where they can where members can come together, they can yarn, they can share their knowledge, they can listen to mental health experts, they'll have opportunities to training and they can share best practice to support their communities better. Remember to reach out, connect and heal our way.
So that's our video case studies, everyone. So I would just like to take this time as well just to reiterate that we do have our support team. So if anything has come up for anyone during those videos, please feel free to seek them out, be it now or at the end. They'll be here until 2 o'clock. So next up, another part of our resources we have is a comic. The Guide to Safe Conversations. We love a QR code now, the only really good thing to come out of COVID. So if you do scan this, we do have it here in the room today as well. You're able to download it directly, but it will be on our website. So with the comic, this was developed to support people's confidence in having discussions about suicide. And we've also developed a guide that sits alongside the comic on how to use it and explains a little bit what the comic's about as well. So with the comic describes the journey of a young Aboriginal male who is experiencing difficulties at school that are impacting on his social and emotional well-being. His aunt sees him, sits down to have a yarn with him. She encourages him to open up, and eventually he agrees to get support. She never leaves him and goes with him to that support, which is exactly what we need to do when someone is experiencing suicidal thoughts. There is a guide to using this comic that assists with safe yarns about suicide. And for this comic, we have Vanessa Edwidge to thank for that. So thank you very much, Vanessa. It's hopefully a useful tool for everyone and will be available this afternoon on our website. Lastly, we'd like to share with you our stakeholder kit, which will also be available this afternoon. So with the stakeholder kit, this is usually the kit that goes out to organisations or that you can download off the website, which consists of the social media campaign, the video case studies. We have written case studies that complement the videos, as well as some that don't have videos. And with this stakeholder kit, this is just in the beginning of it. This is not a finalised version. We're working on this campaign for a couple of years. So today, we asked you to register your email if you wanted to be kept up to date with this campaign, so we can easily reach out to you to let you know what's being developed, what you want to see developed as well. We can't promise we can make everything, but what we've done throughout this campaign is recognise resources that are currently missing that aren't out there. We're not about reinventing the wheel with this campaign. We know there's a lot of work already done. It's about trying to fill in those gaps and making sure that the work out there is culturally appropriate. So alongside this stakeholder kit as well, there is a guide in it to how to run a strengths-based yarning circle, a guide to working with community, activities to support working with people who are at risk of suicide across the lifespans, and just as well how you can get involved with this campaign. As Andy and Summer mentioned earlier today, that we will be running strength-based yarning circles in communities across New South Wales. So, if you want us to come to your community to share these resources or have a yarn through strengths-based yarning circles, you can get in touch with us, and that's how we can keep in contact. So that's it from me. So I will pass back over to Summer and Andy.
Oh, thank you so much. Those resources look amazing. Before we go on to our next part, how'd you go with the whole lockdown, Summer? Are you good?
To be honest with you, the first one was actually really hard. Second time I was a little bit better. I was pregnant, so I couldn't do much anyway.
Yep.
I found it hard. How did you go?
Oh, not bad. You know what I always think, little things that people say weird me out, like get well soon, because we've all been sick during the lockdown and COVID.
No, I've avoided COVID so far.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had COVID, but I hate when people say, "Oh, get well soon," because that suggests they want you to get better, but not right now. Stay sick a bit longer. Get well soon. Not now, but soon. I don't say that. I think it's mean. I just say get well immediately. I did have COVID though. I had COVID, had it pretty bad. Anyone here, hands up, who had COVID? Yep. Anyone had the high temperatures? Oh, I had high I had 39.4 degree temperature. I was sort of proud of that.
So bad you remember the number.
Yeah, 39.4 degrees. I was proud. I was ringing me academic friends saying, "Oh, I've got more degrees than you." And but I remember on that second day, I was delirious. I was all sick. I had the high temperatures, aches and pains, all of that sort of stuff. And I was delirious. I was searching for a box of tissues in Woolworths, and No, I wouldn't do that. I wasn't in Woolworths. As if I'd do that. I was in Aldi. But it was bad anyway. It was bad. We're here though, and we're all out. How good is it? Everyone's out, and that brings us on to our next topic.
Yeah. And can we just say, before we move on to the panellists, thank you for everyone who shared their stories through those videos. We know how important it is to share stories, but we also know how hard it can be. Our stories are often quite personal, but sharing them, we know, is actually going to help more people actually share their stories. And like the tagline, reach out and connect. So,
and it's good to be that person too, to be that person to listen to and look out for things, like to say, you know, hey brother, hey sister, how you going, what's been happening, you know, and have a yarn. If you see something, you notice something, it's always good to sort of maybe make that extra effort just for a bit of a yarn, maybe a cup of coffee, tea.
Yep. Oh, blackfellas love their tea.
They love their tea.
And because for me, when I think about it, I've now just had a daughter. She's 10 months old. And I think every person in this room has done something in this community for this community. And I want everyone to be around. And I want her to see the role models and learn culture and grow up with everybody. This is why we do the work we do, is because we want next generation and the generation after that to actually be happier and healthier than we are, and to actually really understand culture. And the only way we can do that is when our mob, particularly our elders, stick around. They're so important to our community, and I hope that we share these stories, share these resources, so that we can actually make sure that we have a strong, healthy, resilient peoples and cultures. And we know we're strong now. We wouldn't be here right now if we weren't strong.
Absolutely.
But you know, we want us to be stronger than we are even now.
And you've only got one, too.
Yeah.
Summer. I'm a father of 4 and a husband of 1.
How he does it.
And you wait till she starts talking and saying things.
Oh, you've heard her up the back. She's already talking.
Oh, yeah, she's talking.
Yeah.
She's got her own little language.
She thinks this is a deadly event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they grow up quick, you know. And the other day, my daughter, because our kids are going to be more privileged than what we ever were, you know. We grew up poor, you know. I was so poor. The only thing I'm going to inherit off mum are kidney stones. But the thing is that we were poor. My kids will never be that poor. My daughter, 17-year-old, she asked me the other day, oh, what have we got that you didn't have, Dad? And I said, bed sheets that weren't used as tablecloths.
Yeah.
You know, and shoes. So, you know, that's what we do as parents, that we do as mob. We try and make the future better for our kids to grow up in, so they can do the same with their kids. And it's all about change and improving and just making things better, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's why we have a deadly panel to talk about why this is amazingly important. The Aboriginal communities themselves know what's best for our community. We know that, right? Like, this is what we do. And Heal Our Way campaign is highlighting local knowledge and supports. The best way to learn about these services is to hear from our community leaders and the people on the ground themselves. So we have a number of people here that are going to talk about breaking the stigma around suicide with our family, our community, and our friends. Today's panel discussion highlights the importance of talking about suicide, and we've heard that all the way through today. We need to be talking about it. And we know, and knowing how to talk about these conversations, because that's sometimes what happens, and I think Shanae mentioned that. Sometimes people don't know how to talk about it.
That's right.
It's not that you don't want to, but these resources will help you and really reinforce why we need to. So let's give a warm welcome to the following panel members.
Let's do it. First up, Dean Bayliss. Dean is a proud Kamilaroi man and is the CEO of Healing Works Australia. Healing Works prides itself in addressing suicide in Indigenous communities with a clear vision that all Aboriginal people have access to life-saving skills to support a person with thoughts of suicide to help themselves get safe. So, round of applause for Dean. Look at him too. That beard game is strong, Dean. I love it. How manscaped is that? It looks awesome.
I've got no choice.
What's that, brother?
Well, I've got no choice, brother. I can't.
Well, you know what they say. Baldness is all in the head. But it looks good on you. You make me envious. I'm going bald real quick. Next up, for our panel, Judy Scolari Gibson is an
social emotional wellbeing worker, and I have to say, I didn't realise I knew Judy until she turned up today. So Judy and I know each other from working in tobacco control back in the day with Billamudgee. So really grateful to have Judy here today.
Hello, Judy. Round of applause for Judy again. Next up, Uncle George Ellis. You saw a video of Uncle George. Uncle George Ellis is a descendant of Kinchela Boys Home. If you don't know what that is, amazing bunch of elders and uncles that go around and talk about, the tragedies that happened back in the day when they were held at Kinchela Boys Home. Next up is Stephen Smith, known as Uncle JJ, not on the show, although you look a little bit like him. If you could just, when you get up here, just say, "Donald, mate," or something like that. We'll see if you can. Uncle JJ is a Walewan and Kamilaroi man living in Coonamble. He works at Coonamble AMS as an Aboriginal health worker and focuses on getting out into the community to help those in need. Good on you, Uncle. And next up, thank you. And next up, Kerry Smith. Kerry Smith is a Wiradjuri woman from Condobolin in central West New South Wales and currently living and working in Gadigal country. She is currently a Senior Project Officer in the Aboriginal Mental Health Workforce Program at the Ministry of Health, striving for culturally led and inclusive mental health service delivery and policy reform. So give her a round of applause, Kerry Smith.
So we're going to ask the panel members some questions. Depending on how big their yarns are, we may be able to open it up to the floor if we have time. So just going to kick off with you, Kerry, if that's all right. Lucky first. This campaign is part of Towards Zero Suicides initiatives. We know health workers in particular experience high levels of burnout and their health should be a priority concern. Can you please share with us some of your thoughts on why a community of practice is important around this issue? Yep.
So Towards Zero Suicides is a Premier's priority. It is about reducing suicide by 20% by 2023. It's a whole of government initiative, and the New South Wales government has committed over 140 million over the next 4 years for suicide prevention in New South Wales. The Ministry of Health is the agency leading the initiative. And they're working in partnership with the broader New South Wales health system, with community managed organisations and other government agencies. The building on communities' resilience initiative is a culturally led and developed initiative. We've got a couple of the AMSs here today. We've got Coonamble and Dubbo and Forbes here today, and they're a part of that initiative. Their activities are based on the needs of their communities. In 2022-23, it's going to be extended to another 12 ARCHOs across the state, with over $9 million funding from the Closing the Gap initiative. And we've got, I've led the initiative. We've got Damien, who's over here, who's been taking care of the initiative since I've gone into another role, and he's been doing a great job. An important part of the initiative is change management. And it's important to listen to the voices of lived experience and community, and they're an integral part of the initiative, and basing and culturally appropriate programs and services by listening to those people.
Thank you. What we might get you to do, so you have all microphones, so you might just pull them forward a little bit or get a little closer and use your big voices.
They deadly little mics too. They'll pick your voice up. Uncle JJ, I got a question for you. Is that all right? How tall are you? Nah, you're very tall actually. As part of this campaign, we're trying to normalise conversations about suicide prevention. As an Aboriginal health worker who's worked in your community for many years, how have you supported people who may struggle in your community?
Yeah, just being there. I was in Gold Coast living for 5 years. During that time, I had got on good with this, had a pretty good friend, and then after that I moved home, and within 3 months of me moving back, I get a phone call to say that he's no longer with us, so, you know, and in our community there's been several people, they bring up and ask for me to talk to. I mean, we've got counsellors and doctors, but yet they pick me to talk to. I've seen the neck mark, I've seen the marks around their necks, I've seen the tracks in their arms, I've seen the empty bottles of trying to OD, things like that. So I just say to them, look, please come up any time. I'm there. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what to say to them. I let them do the talking. I throw them in a car, we go for a drive. We could be 2 hours driving around doing whatever. Mightn't be nothing, just sitting there and talking, and, you know, so, look, just being there, you know, and knowing that they trust me, yeah.
We know it's important to target youth, but why do you think it's important to target youth from your perspective?
Oh, I think they trust me. You know, so, and I'm not going to let that go. I'll go out. I get calls 24/7, and if I don't go out and attend and talk to somebody, well, I'll only be reading about it the next day, and that's my biggest. You know, I don't want to be doing that. So, yeah, if anybody, you know, if you can do something for someone, please do it.
Absolutely.
It's easy to see why people would trust you, Uncle JJ. I trust you. I only met you this morning. You could do.
Oh, not many.
I'd give you my PIN number.
Uncle George, we heard a little bit about your story on the video, and so thank you very much for sharing. Look, the ongoing experience of stolen generation and descendants continues to affect mental health and well-being of survivors and their descendants. So what are some of the most important things to consider around healing and resilience building for survivors of stolen generation and their descendants? Can you just share a little bit about your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a third generation dispossessed person. My grandmother, she was brought to Sydney from Tennant Creek as a young girl. Mum was in Cootamundra Girls' Home, Dad was in Kinchela Boys' Home, and I was in Morella Mission in Kellyville as well. With this, it's, I suppose in one way, I look at what happened with Dad. Now he didn't do anything that happened straight away, but I feel over years, over decades after I'd come home from the homes, that he'd slowly done that through alcohol and through other ways of not looking after himself. When we talk about suicide, it's talked about a thing that happens straight away, but it can happen in different forms as well, through neglect, through abuse of yourself, and I suppose the way that with Dad, it was a case where it was over a period of time. It was a big decline. That was hard. Not hard, but every loss is difficult. And with myself and being from the Stolen Gens, it's been a big case where what I'd call a rite of with the initiation process, and we've grown up with my parents, with my father. I would have gone through a rite of initiation, where I would have gone in a boy, and I would have come out recognised as a man within our community. That was taken away from us, and it's done differently now with myself and my children. I've had a difficult time trying to raise them. I've had no idea of how to do it. And as mentioned, there's been cases where I've had close family and friends who've done that, and not being able to communicate that to your kids and to, you know, to be fearful that they're going to go down that road. It's bloody terrifying at times, not knowing what to do. And when you do try things, and I've tried many times, thinking that I could do what I say and what I tell my kids, that it's the right thing and they have to do it, but it's not. Because I've been learning my whole life as well, and things are different. And I found having grandchildren that it's a different approach to them as well, where I've been learning as well. And I suppose over the last 2 years, that's where my own story's sort of come to a real head. I've had things that have happened, and I've really looked at myself and taken action about doing something that's going to help me through what's happening at the moment. With that, I've done a lot more for my health personally, and I never thought I'd say this out to the people like this, but I'm actually seeing a psychologist too, and that's made a big difference in addressing issues that I've had to myself, and where I've just totally ignored it over the past. Thank you. And that's made a big difference with how I'm looking at things and how I just deal with things from day to day as well. And with doing the video, something that I've noticed within my life is I've commonly been asked, what am I doing to change things for myself? What am I doing to change this, to change that? Whereas at times it would have been nice to hear, what can I do to help you? What can I do? You know, you have to go to the house, I'll come down with you and help you with that. Just little things that may help along the way. See someone struggling, rather than, that was my go-to, was to tell them what to do. But asking them what's happening and how they're feeling and where to go, it's a better option. And from all that too, if you're in that position, or if you know, hopefully this will do something to prompt people to say something and to step up, if that can happen. And if one person can get a message out of that, that's good. Then maybe another one and another one and another one will. And that's always a good outcome. Hopefully it goes that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks, Uncle. And it's always important, that's important to be totally dead honest too, that you make mistakes, and we all learn from them, but thanks for being honest there, Uncle. Next, Judy. How are you, Judy?
Good.
I've got a couple of questions.
With this wealth of experience sitting up here.
Yes, well, you're amongst...
And in the room.
You're amongst them, and yep, we've got experience in spades in this whole room. So Judy, you work at Dubbo AMS. Part of the campaign is about spotlighting local initiatives responding to local needs. What do you believe is the significance of launching this campaign in the Central West region, and what are some of the positive programs and initiatives being run through the local AMS?
Well, thank you for inviting me to sit up here today. I'm not sure if I'm the right person to sit here, but I've been working in the field...
You're in the top 5.
Oh, thank you. Can I have a golden buzzer? So my field of work is I'm a counsellor within the Aboriginal Medical Services for Dubbo, for Coonamble, and we've now opened the Gulgandra Aboriginal Medical Service. My previous history was working in Burke, Brewarrina and Walgett and the satellite communities of those areas. So I've been working as a counsellor in these areas for the last 15 years. I have a wonderful job and I'm very passionate about working in Aboriginal communities as a non-Aboriginal woman. And I work with JJ and I've heard of a lot of stories of other stuff that's happening, but today is a great day to see people from other Aboriginal medical services and other organisations. To be launched in Dubbo is obviously the hub of Western New South Wales for us. You know, and I know there's some few other people from outside of Dubbo. Was there Burke here today? Any Burke people? I thought I saw some people with a shirt on earlier. But I think what you're doing is a fantastic way to start the ball rolling and that conversation happening. We don't have enough workers out west. We are really stretched to the limit, and as you know, as health workers and mental health workers and Aboriginal health workers, you're the key for us when we come to your community. You're full of knowledge, your experience. Never ever doubt that. For me, as a visiting practitioner, I can't get by without your knowledge. You know, you're the key for how I can work best with someone that might be being affected by suicide within your community. I don't know all the answers. What I do in my own practice and the initiative that I use is more individual based, is just to be there with the person, whether it's down on the river, whether it's somewhere else, whether it's in the office, wherever they're comfortable with. And you've got to go with that flow. And the fact to be really non-judgmental and show the empathy and show that you're listening and you're the care. And like George said, it could be something as simple as housing, not knowing how to deal with the housing pathway or employment, or it could be just the court system. I do a lot of work in courts, stolen Jan, with mums today still having babies and children removed. You know, it's still happening. And I think between the January to the June period, I had about 17 clients who were at risk of suicide in our local communities. So it's about who do I get access to them, who can I bring in to help them when they need it, and is it a family member, is it an elder within the community, is it another Aboriginal health worker, or is it someone within their own network of family and friends that best help them? And as I said, I don't know the answers, but I listen to the person and try and work out and navigate the best outcome for them as part of my intervention that I use. So, yeah, I hope that sort of answered the question.
I think that does answer the. Are there any other effective or appropriate prevention strategies you could name?
I think for us as practitioners, and particularly if we're non-Aboriginal practitioners working in this area, the key is to have some cultural competencies. I've just finished the Dr. Tracy Westerman training in Western Australia, and Tracy talks a lot about how important it is for us to obviously we can't know it all, or we can't think that we're cultural, but we need to have some understanding of that so that we can best help the person we're working with. And I think for all us non-Aboriginal practitioners, we need to follow that path and to do the cultural competencies, and particularly Dr. Tracy Westerman's, and use those evidence-based tools that she uses and has developed for assessment with our clients, if that's appropriate. But also navigating the client through different avenues, such as the health system, the mental health services and so forth. And one of my things I do is I just check in on them. I check in on my clients if I'm concerned about them, or I might ask the Aboriginal health worker like JJ or someone like that, or the other girls that are here today, just to check in, because I'm a fly-in. I'm a fly-in, fly-out, and I just, if I'm worried about someone, I always, you know, sort of follow that rule.
Fantastic, thank you. Dean, lucky last.
I know.
We know how passionate you are about this topic.
Very.
Involved in iAssist,
Yeah.
which was just launched, which is fantastic and a wonderful resource, and Safe Yarn training. Also, the importance of considering language around suicide and having conversations. We know we need to get the language right if we're going to do this well. How would you help someone navigate being worried about talking about suicide? And how can iAssist and Safe Yarn training actually help people who are thinking about talking to someone?
Yeah, so as we saw some videos earlier, there's a huge stigma within our communities about talking about suicide. And you can actually see it in some people when we're trying to have these discussions. It's tough for us to actually say suicide or killing ourselves. So it's very important to come out and use direct language when we're talking about suicide with other people. I think Shanae said it in her video, the people who are having thoughts of suicide, they're thinking about suicide. So if we try to make them feel comfortable by not talking directly about it, it actually makes them feel uncomfortable. And it actually shows you that you're not really a comfortable or a safe place to have a yarn. And so you ask directly to someone about suicide will not make someone die by suicide. It'll actually show that you're a safe place. You see them, you see their pain, and you're someone who can have a yarn about it in a non-judgment way. So it's very important that we get this right, and we use these skills. What iAssist and Safe Yarn does, iAssist was developed with Shane Connell, the CEO of LivingWorks, is here today.
Put your hand up, Shane.
Shane Connell, the CEO of LivingWorks Australia. So they're global leaders in suicide intervention skills training in the world. They partnered with the University of Queensland and Professor Marie Terms, and they spent 5 years doing co-design and going through communities. It's arguably one of the leading suicide intervention, Indigenous suicide intervention skills training in the world. It's one of the arguably the leading ones nationally, because it's reaching national people. So it provides giving the skills to how to have see the invitations when someone's having thoughts of suicide, asking them directly and providing them to listen to what their story is, and providing them the skills to keep themselves safe while they're on the healing journey. Because as we saw in the dances earlier this morning, that from thousands of years, it's about us keeping ourselves strong, keeping the bad spirits alive. And this training has got the nuances and the practical and the protocols within that. So it's an amazing resource.
Fantastic. Can I just say, co-design, that's the way you do it. You do it properly,
Yeah,
you get it right.
100%. 90 communities and like 6,000 people did the field trials just for the iAssist model alone. And with Damien, we're working with Damien, which I'm very proud to be doing within ministries. So we're doing the Safe Yarn, which is in co-design as we speak, through your communities. So in the next 8 weeks, over 900 people in these communities will be trained in these skills. So I'm very proud of that. So we'll be launching these. We've been doing a lot of consultation and engagement with Damien and these art shows since March. And I'm happy to say within the next 8 weeks, 9 of those Aboriginal community controlled health organisations, over 900 people will be trained in either iAssist or the Safe Yarn model. So it's an amazing outcome.
Too deadly. That's awesome. We would love to be able to have some questions from the audience, but unfortunately we've had too big a yarn today, so we're just going to have to thank them. They are going to be around. We will have some activities, so there will be opportunity to have some more conversation later. So can we just thank our deadly panellists and really thank them for sharing their stories today?
Thank you. Look, we are having lunch. There's a traditional, we have traditional food. We have Devon, noodles, home brand.
Yeah, white bread.
White bread.
A little bit of rice up there
Dry
too.
as, no. Look, there is lunch coming, so I can't wait. And feel free, you guys are going to hang around, have a yarn with our panellists. They're open to share stories and information and knowledge, experience, all of that sort of stuff. Am I putting you too deep in? No. Yeah? You're up for a yarn. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending today and being a part of this.
A little bit more, sorry.
Oh, we do have a little bit
he's
more.
jumping the gun,
Sorry.
He's keen for that lunch, that Devon's just calling.
Yeah.
So up next, we really want to actually talk about 13 Yarn. So if we can invite Alan Health and Dallas Taylor from 13 Yarn to come and have a chat about 13 Yarn and how you can access this service safely. While they're coming up, again, just want to thank the panellists. We know how important it is to share stories, and it's not always easy to do. So we're going to give you a mic each. Clearly you boys know each other.
I only just noticed who this fella was. We've known each other for years. We're the same jail, eh, bros? No, I'm kidding. Here he is, Dallas Taylor.
How you going, everyone? Just want to thank Damien and Shanae and other people who I've probably left out for the invite. And it's good to be in the presence of good people. You know, everyone's got a part to play in this, and we're all doing what we can with what we got. and it's really good having the contribution from the government, and you know, just the amount of effort everyone's putting in has been fantastic. We want to thank the traditional elders of the land, the Wiradjuri people, and Auntie Margaret, thank you for the welcome this morning. And this is my name's Alan. I'm from Darwin originally. I was born on Larrakia land. My family's from Borroloola, and the people is the Murra. And
G'day everyone, I'm Dallas Taylor. I'm a Comaroy man, born and bred up about 250k from here, a little place called Walhollow Mission. Been with 13 Yarn now since February. We officially launched a soft launch back on the 16th of March, looking to go national, even though we are at the moment in the next 3 to 4 weeks with our opening of the Perth office. So Al, you want to continue with
yeah, so what I suppose what makes 13 Yarn and all these new co-designed is that we're purpose-built crisis support hotline. We're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're confidential. We're culturally appropriate, culturally trained. We're lucky in a sense where Lifeline a couple of years ago had put the numbers together, and they'd realised that the rates of suicide were going up, not down, and that unfortunately we're still hitting double the amount of suicides, and unfortunately a lot of it was our young people. And so they put in for the funding, they got it, and hence 13 Yarn was born. And there's a lot of work's gone into it, just a lot of you know, a lot of help from the you know, from Guy Dewey, Centre for Excellence with Pat Dudgeon, and you know, the what do they call it? Yeah, with the advisory board. Sorry, a little bit nervous, and basically what it is, we offer employment services as well. Like we're trying to go beyond just like having a service where we can, you know, people can tell you a story and talk about your problems, and you know, we're not just crisis support. You can call whenever you're feeling down, no good. You know, you could be a child through to elderly. There's no age group. There's like any time that you're feeling unwell or feeling in a space where you're becoming unwell, give us a call, and you'll be speaking to an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person that we can guarantee. And the best thing about our service is it's co-designed, led, managed and delivered by Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
And touching on that lived experience, you know, all of the mob that pick up that phone, you know, they've been there, done that, which is important because it breaks down a lot of the stigma, but it also creates that connection that we feel we need when we want to have a yarn to someone. I work in the service delivery side of the business, and we've actually got a centre here in Dubbo that delivers 13 Yarn. We've got about 15 staff here. We also have a centre up in Cairns, and about 10 staff there, and one down in Wollongong and Nowra. So that's our national service, but as I mentioned, in the next 3 to 4 weeks, we'll have Perth online, so we will truly be a national crisis support centre for our mob, anywhere in Australia, any time of the day. And just touch on that, our first ever caller was a lady just laid up in hospital. The nurses are off doing their thing at 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever they do. And this old girl just picked up the phone and thought, I'll ring these fellas, seen us on Facebook. And straight away she made a connection to the lady on the other line, and they chatted for a good 25, 30 minutes, and that lifted her spirit so much that she got out about a week earlier than she should have from hospital. So, you know, it's not just about you know, a big crisis. It could be just a small thing such as, you know, feeling lonely and just wanting someone to have a chat to. And I think, you know, sitting in with our staff and watching them do the things that they do and just listening on the conversations, I'm more than confident that we've got the right people in the right roles. And we must be doing something right, because even the Gubs are ringing us. Yeah, but I think, you fellas look like you need a good feed, so we might pull it up there. And if you want to ask any questions, just pull us aside and have a yarn.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, we're in the process of building our service directory. That's going to be like Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander services for, like, you know, it could be anything from AMSs through to clinics. Yeah, anything. So if you want to, like, if you feel you want to be part of that, just contact us through inquiries, and we'll send the link out. Oh, the link's on there, I think, but we can send the link anyway, and then we can add it up, and then it'll be part of a subscription and newsletter as well. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Can I just say, 13
Well done,
Yarn,
boys.
make
Thanks,
sure
guys.
you're promoting it. Our mob need it. It's a fantastic resource. Push it out there.
Yep.
So, last but not least, we have Vanessa.
Yeah, we got Vanessa. I'd like to invite Vanessa up and remind everybody about supporting people and talking about the cultural activities here. Yeah?
So, it doesn't finish with us today, so Vanessa's going to tell you a bit more about it.
Thank you, Vanessa. Vanessa's singing as well.
Hi everyone, I'm a Ngurraba woman from Emmaville, New South Wales. I'm a registered psychologist and the chair of the Australian Indigenous Psychologists Association. It's a real pleasure to be here today. We acknowledge that this is the end of the formal side of things, but we also acknowledge that this can trigger a lot of feelings for us today and a lot of different emotions. It's really important to take time to look after ourselves and notice how we're feeling. The healing team will be available all afternoon. If you feel like having a yarn, we've got these t-shirts on. If you just look up the back, Ronald, if you could stand up, and the other, our healing team, there he and so we'll be around all afternoon. We have a range of activities this afternoon that you can do, such as beading and didge playing and boomerang throwing. As identified in the stakeholders kit, expressive art therapies using our bodies to assist processing difficult emotions and help us to restore emotional and behavioural regulation. And this afternoon, that is a few of some examples of those activities. We look forward to more yarns and activities this afternoon. Connect, reach out and heal our way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa.
And we have some goodie bags up the back apparently too. So first in, best dressed. It's really great that everyone has come today. It's fantastic that we've launched the resources. One of the things that it really struck home to me is that suicide isn't just about mental health. We have times that are difficult to go through. We have sometimes traumas, we have experiences. We know this is not just about mental health issues. So these kind of resources will be able to help talk to people who are experiencing some difficulties, as well as those who might also be having some mental health issues. So on behalf of Coxinall Ridgeway, we'd really like to thank you all for attending the launch. The amount of people in this room demonstrates the commitment to this really important priority. I've got to tell you to check out the Healing Our Way website and you won't be disappointed. Make sure you, it's up there. Make sure you promote it. Use the hashtag, get on Twitter, get on Insta, get on Snapchat, get on Facey. Make sure you promote it.
There should be some photos on Insta and that we can share. Everyone can share, yeah?
There will be on the Coxinall Ridgeway social media.
Get on it, follow it. You know, funny, followers back in my day was someone you had to report to the police, and now it's everything's changed.
And if you're interested in holding a community event or yarning circle, and when we say we're interested, we're highly encouraging you to do that. Reach out to Coxinall Ridgeway and they can give you a hand on how to do that.
Anyway, look, thank you very much for inviting me here as well. I've had a wonderful time co-hosting. We were talking about collabing.
Yep.
How good's our collab, hey? That was successful, I think. I got tongue-tied there for a little bit, but it's an honour to be a part of this campaign and, showcasing something really important for our people, and we're journeying towards change, good change, positive change.
Zero suicides.
Zero suicide. I mean, no one ever wants to go in a race and say, oh, I hope I come fourth. We want to come first in this. We want zero. This is what we're heading for. Keep that in your mind, your forethought, because, you know, that should be a common goal of all of our people and people in the struggle with us. So thanks very much.
And before you go, remember to connect, reach out and heal our way. That's the importance of this campaign.
Good on you, legends.
Right. You can go and do some artwork. You can go and get a feed. You can socialise. You can ask questions.
Go and make a sandwich.